And have consistently tried to support budgets that I thought were practicable, that met the needs. Were they ideal? Of course not. We could use a lot more money. There's so many things we can do, but money isn't growing on trees, and it's not in our greenhouses.
I keep getting stuck on that one slide, and I know you put a lot of work into all your slides, but the one slide with the counties reducing percentage of investment in our budget. It used to be as high as 45%. It is now below 40%. I think it's at like 37. We're potentially looking at 38 or 39. That's a 6% decrease in the county's investment in our schools, which means they aren't funding us for the growth we've had. I think in the county plan, they're only looking at a 3% increase of a few $1 million that won't even cover our growth, and I think that's what's happened over the years. So I feel like we need to look at moving the needle bigger. Like, we don't need to fund just for what we need next year and a little bit more. I feel like we need to play bigger catch up, and I don't know what that looks like. I did get some numbers. We'd be asking for, at 39%, it looks like about $20 million in increased funding. 40%, we're going up to $27 million. So about every percent is another $7 million. If we were to go back to the 45% investment that the county had in our budget previously, we'd be asking for $65 million. I'm not saying we go that high, but I think we need to make up. I think we at least need to have the conversation about making up some of this lost ground, especially considering it costs us $20 million in 3R every year, and for every million or every dollar we get less than that, we're just we're making our list longer. We're not gaining any ground on our infrastructure, and then we're going to have an emergency, and we don't have an emergency fund either. So I understand the need for having a beautiful line item budget. Thank you to the people that put it together. But I also have concerns only asking for what we need down to the nickel, considering that by the time June comes around, we could be at $6 a gallon gas. We could have energy issues. We could have infrastructure issues we can't even imagine right now. We could be, I know Lionel's great at his job, but we could have a much bigger bubble of kids moving here or starting schools. I read an article yesterday that the homeschooling population is decreasing and our in-school population across the state of in-school kids is increasing. Are we factoring that in? I just feel like we need to be, I like to say more conservative, but almost be more generous in our ask so that we can be more fiscally responsible as the year carries on and we're not always emergency funding everything and having no wiggle room at all, and being at the end of the year asking people to hold off on expenses so we can limp over the finish line. I want to have more money in here for our 3R. I want to have very broad strokes. If we are looking at increasing our ask, I think it should be in broad strokes rather than in line items. Should be at looking at fixing our teacher compensation, our school-based funding, and our infrastructure.
So I think it's time that the narrative change, the culture change, and we start getting funded. And I think it is time that we start going big or go home, or we're not going to have a school system to go to.
That I find the whole budget process to be, let's use the word interesting just to keep it above board, but I'm pretty frustrated, and I don't often throw stones across the street because I get that they have so many multiple and competing things on their plate that I don't have to think about, I don't have to consider, I don't have to worry about, and so I try to respect that piece of this pie, but as a citizen and a resident of this county, like I'm frustrated that the worth of a county is 100% based on first schools and kids. Is it a place I want to raise my kids and my family? And currently, the way the school system sits, I think we've got a ding on our record. And I think it's very clear that we're not getting the point across the street that We can't handle any more houses. We cannot handle another subdivision going up. We cannot handle any more. I mean, there are so many homes planned to be built in Stafford County, and it's not thoughtful. We're not considering what that actually means for those of us who are already here, for our kids who are already in these schools, for the work that has to be done to support bringing them up to par. And that's very stressful for me, and it's very disheartening. And I hope that attitude changes when they're looking at this budget and when they understand that if our schools don't come first and we don't show this, we live in a world as adults that isn't about us. It's about the next generation behind us and the kids that we're bringing into the future, right? We have our experiences. We're living off of our adult stuff. And for me, the school system itself sells the whole package.